And today we have a very robust agenda, and we'll hear a series of presentations regarding public services, single-family, multifamily, and of course, we will close out with director comments. Several of the items are second authorizations. Some are the first authorization of an ordinance. And today, we do not have public speakers that are signed up to speak. However, at the end of the meeting, if we have a speaker that is willing, we will allot a limited time for public comments. At this time, I would like to call our director to open us up. Thank you much.
Good morning, Madam Chair. It's always good to be here. So as you mentioned, we do have a very robust presentation to do this morning. We're going to get started with public service, and during that presentation, Melanie Barr, Assistant Director.
Good morning. Good morning. For the first three items, items A, B, and C, it should be noted that the Housing and Community Development Department conducted a NOFA, a Notice of Funding Award, or funding availability for public services activities in December of 2022. The following three agencies were selected as part of that NOFA, each with an option to extend for an additional 12 months of services at the department's discretion. I'll begin with item 3A. The department is presenting an ordinance authorizing a subrecipient agreement with the Women's Home, providing up to $250,000 in Community Development Block Grant Funding, or CDBG, for the operation and administration of programs serving approximately 500 women in the Houston area. The program services will assist women participants by increasing stability and access to resources needed to successfully exit homelessness. Services include health counseling, substance abuse services, and employment services, including vocational assessments, adult basic education, computer classes, job search training, and employment referrals to help clients obtain and maintain employment. The Women's Home has been funded with public services dollars since 2016. Today, we have Anna Coffey, the Chief Executive Officer, and Bethany Fields, Vice President of Grants and Evaluations, here representing the Women's Home. Item 3B, the department is presenting an ordinance authorizing a subrecipient agreement with Wesley Community Center, providing up to $250,000 in CDBG funds for the operation and administration of an employment services program, assisting 250 low to moderate income individuals in the Houston area. The goal of this program is to help participants increase their stability and obtain the resources they need to successfully gain and maintain employment. The employment services include employability and soft skill classes such as resume writing, interviewing, professional conduct, as well as financial education, which includes basic budgeting, savings, and credit building, and assistance in enrolling in healthcare-focused vocational training courses such as certified nursing assistants, patient care technicians, medical billing and coding, as well as advanced bridge classes for healthcare career tracks. You may be familiar with LVN, medical assistants, sterile processing. This is Wesley's first public services agreement, and today we have Amy Corin, President and CEO, representing Wesley. Item 3C, the department is presenting an ordinance authorizing a subrecipient agreement with Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, or just simply Catholic Charities, providing up to $150,000 in CDBG funds for the operation and administration of an employment services program assisting 150 low to moderate income individuals in the Houston area. The goal of this program is to help participants increase their stability and obtain the resources they need to successfully gain and maintain employment. Employment services may include professional soft skills training to prepare for job search and readiness, resume writing, applying, and interviewing. The employment specialist works with clients to identify training, certifications, and educational opportunities through partnerships, referrals, and financial assistance. Along with employment services are the case management services, which include assessing clients' strengths and needs, identifying barriers, developing a tailored service plan to guide each client towards their employment goal, Case managers work with clients to complete and provide all necessary paperwork, develop a service plan with individual goals and objectives, link them to other needed services such as housing, food pantries, mental health services, and engage in regular follow-up reassessment at least 30, 60, and 90 days. The term of this agreement, similar to the others, is November 1st, 23 through October 31st, 24. Catholic Charities has received funding through various agreements with the city since 2003. And today we have Monica Perez, Vice President of Family Support Services, Rolanda Clements Martin, Director of Family Assistance, and Tom Singleton, the Project Manager over grants, representing Catholic Charities here in the audience. For items 2D and 2E, I will be presenting those two together. They're very similar. The department is presenting before this committee a recommendation for council approval of ordinances that authorize contracts between the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs, also commonly referred to as TDHCA because we love our acronyms, and the City of Houston. Whereas the City of Houston will accept the award of Homeless Housing Services Program, or HHSP funds, the ordinance will authorize the Housing Community Development Director to represent the city for the HHSP award and provide the mayor's signature authority and execute the contracts and amendments authorizing changes throughout the contract. In 2024, the HHSP award amount consisted of a general allocation of $1,222.
In 2024?
In 2024, yes.
You said in 2024.
I'm sorry, the 2024 allocation.
Oh, I was like, oh.
Sorry,
We're
the
already there.
2024 HHSP award amount consists of a general allocation in the amount of $1,222,988, and an additional set-aside amount of $369,328 to address youth homelessness, for a combined award amount of $1,592,316. Per TDHCA, these funds must be used by the city on activities eliminating and/or preventing homelessness. Specific allowable activities include construction, development, or procurement of housing for homeless persons, rehabilitation of structures targeted to serving homeless persons or persons at risk of homelessness, provisions and direct services and case management to homeless persons or persons at risk of homelessness, or other homeless-related activities as approved by TDHCA. The youth set-aside funding must be used for activities eliminating or preventing homelessness in youth-headed households. And just for reference, youth is defined from 18 to 24 years of age. Specific allowable activities include essential services, street outreach, and transitional living for persons experiencing homelessness in youth-headed households. The state provides HHSP funding to 9 of the largest cities in Texas in support of services to homeless individuals and families. Those current cities include Arlington, Austin, Corpus Christi, Dallas, El Paso, Fort Worth, of course, Houston, Plano, and San Antonio. An ordinance allocating the accepted HHSP funds for use by local nonprofit organizations will be presented to council for consideration within the next a few months. It'll probably be the next 6 months. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. We don't have any questions in the queue. However, I would just like to amplify just the ongoing request of that once these items come to council and that they are approved, for the agencies to make sure that council offices have the right information as we interface with constituents that may have these needs. And sometimes it's we're scuffling to see which agency we can refer them to. So it'll be good to know that we can have this information provided so they know which agencies are doing what, as we are presented with these type of cases all the time. And as an aside from that, I really appreciate this HHSP grant. On Friday, my team and Mark Eichenbaum were on the west side looking at the encampments and interfaced with some youth that have been out there for about 5 years. And so I'm really interested on the implementation of these funds and then how y'all intend to get this out on the street. And I'm gonna, selfishly always make sure that on the west side that we have coverage, because many agencies don't have footprints on the west side, and yet we have high demand, need around those growing areas, and I'm sure any council office will mimic the same sentiments. And so offline, I would love to have a conversation about how that gets deployed.
Well, we'll say that during the last NOFA, this funding was a part of that. And so typically, we don't have very many applicants when it comes to the youth-driven services. So Covenant House is one of those larger agencies that assist, and it's really difficult. And what you're experiencing and what you're looking at when we talk about encampments and specifically youth is that our youth hide. Our youth hide when it comes to homelessness. They also don't have the same definition of in themselves of what homelessness looks like. So if I am homeless and I'm staying with a friend today and I stay with them, I'm not homeless, right? They don't see it that way, and it is definitely a difficult population. But I'd love to talk to you more about it. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Director.
All righty, thank you. Moving to the next item, which is single family. Doing that presentation, Assistant Director Cedric Lassane.
Good morning. All right. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. I'm presenting items 3A to 3E on behalf of the Housing and Community Development Department. As we further our large tract development and meeting the mayor's initiative of putting housing on the ground, we're going to be bringing multiple projects to this committee for review that is going to be putting, I guess, additional houses that will be available for sale for low to moderate income homeowners. So item A, Housing and Community Development Department recommends council approval of an ordinance authorizing an agreement between the City of Houston and Five Woods Realty, providing a non-amortizing forgivable loan up to $2 million in Uptown TERS Series 2021 affordable home funds to fund infrastructure for single-family development at 13520 Furman Road in Houston, Texas, and that's in District D. Funding will cover infrastructure of approximately 4.2 acres, 45 home development with 40 of those homes for affordable families from 80 to 120% AMI, price ranging from 180 to 260. As we all know, the median home prices currently are about $350,000 on the open market. Also, we are going to be looking at an option to acquire the adjacent 3.2 acres of property for an additional 20 to 30 homes, depending on detention requirements. Additional information on this item is available in the presentation slides. Item B, Housing and Community Development Department recommends council approval of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the loan agreement of $2,444,000 in Uptown TERS Series 2021 Affordable Homes Funds between the City of Houston and Houston Business Development, Inc. to replace iDate Solutions LLC as a senior lender for the Browncroft development. This development, as it was presented previously, is 47 home development with 42 homes affordable at 80 to 120% AMI with a price range of $227,000 to $300,000. Item C, Housing and Community Development Department recommends council approval of an ordinance authorizing an agreement between the City of Houston and the Houston Business Development, Inc., providing a non-amortizing forgivable loan for up to $2 million in Uptown TERS Series 2021 Affordable Homes Funding to finance the infrastructure for Palmetto Place, a single-family development located at 5915 Schroeder Road, and that's in District D. All the units in this development will be considered affordable, and that's a total of 43 homes for homeowners between 80 and 120% AMI.
Mr. Lassane, on 3C, on page 31.
Yes, ma'am.
So the AMI is 60 to 120, the 60%, is that land trust?
One more time?
The 60 to 120 AMI, is this a partnership with the land trust?
It is not a partnership, but they are talking with several different folks that are looking at land trust options for this
Sure.
development.
Right, because if we go deeper into the AMI, I would assume that they would need there would be some type of partnership with them.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Item D, Housing and Community Development Department recommends council approval of an ordinance authorizing amendment to the single-family home repair guidelines, version 1.8, to include revisions to construction standards, withdrawing administrative criteria, withdrawing and reinstating homeowners' voluntary criteria, recommending estate planning, and reducing the duration of the affordability period. One of the things I really want to talk about in this item, the estate planning is a recommendation that we're looking for each homeowners to be able to provide a succession plan for the actual property. We deal with an elderly population in our home repair program, and so often we've seen homeowners pass away without the proper documents in place to pass the property on. Okay.
If I may, if I can underscore that and the importance of the estate planning for those that are listening, several individuals post-Harvey were impacted, senior citizens, and they didn't have clear deed to the title. So when you look at just economic wealth, neighborhood revitalization and protection, this is extremely important. So while we are at one point investing in single-family development for people to receive an asset, but it's what they do with that asset in the end and then the implications of that from the city. So we must do and in both. And neighborhoods are only going to be protected once the assets are protected, no different than what we do with our public facilities. Make sure that you follow this, because this is really important, and as y'all are dealing with constituents and they're coming to you with their issues around, their home, or they can't qualify, or they need single-family repair, a lot of times this is the barrier to that. So we have to move Houstonians forward, thinking more innovatively so they can actually protect the asset that they work so hard to keep. Thank you.
Okay. And I also
Vice
wanna-
Chair Robinson?
I know that we're going through this very quickly,
Yes, sir.
and just for the purposes of further illustration, on page 36, there's a bullet point that says revising the construction standards.
Yes.
And I wonder if you could just give us a word or two about what that means.
Great. So as I've talked about this before with our new home development program, we've changed to some fortified home standards where we are not allowing, for instance, OSB plywood to be used on horizontal surfaces, such as the roof. What this is, it fortifies the home in case there's another hurricane or whatever acts of God that happen in this area. Another component is we are homes that are elevated because of a moist climate that we live in.
Right.
We have changed the requirement to go from a 3/4 inch plywood to 1 1/8 plywood for all subfloor decking.
So force majeure, the act of God, those are important factors. And the climate we're in, I think the key word you used, I heard, is fortify,
Yes.
which of course is hardening the assets for all applicants, all homeowners, and for the city's portfolio. Okay, it's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. I also wanted to add, for the property preservation portion of this that we were talking about, we have some great partners that we're working with, which is Lone Star Legal Aid, as well as TSU Property Preservation Department. So,
And if I can add on top of that, this is a major issue on what we are dealing with current property owners, because they have inherited the property, but at least they think they have inherited the property. But because there was no legal document transferring from parent or grandparent to the current occupant, we are oftentimes not able to serve those individuals because they are not the proven homeowner. So this helps in establishing that moving forward.
okay. Also, I wanted to add, there has been some changes to the actual matrix for the guideline amendment. And under that, under the matrix, the moderate and substantial rehab, Tier 2, it should be a range of $50,001 up to $79,999.99. Also, on the gut rehabilitation, it's going to be greater than $80,000 up to $200,000 for substantial gut rehab under Tier 3.
Are you going to recirculate that table?
Yes, we will.
That sounds like really important to do before that gets out.
Absolutely.
And Chair, obviously, on the website when we link the presentation.
Okay. Okay. Item 3E, Housing and Community Development Department recommends council approval of an ordinance amending ordinance number 2018-56 as amended, allocating an additional $7,259,615 in community development block grant funds to the master contract agreements under the City of Houston's home repair and increasing the maximum contract amount from $53,610,242.65 to $60,869,857.65. And this affects all districts.
No questions in the queue. Also, we've had some more attendees from the time that I announced. Of course, our vice chair is in chambers. We have staff from District C, District D, District E, At-Large 1, and At-Large 4. President Chambers, thank you much. Questions in the queue around affordable home development or single-family. So if we can, if Ms. Roxanne can get us the updated matrix, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
All right. And now moving to a presentation on multifamily. Anna Martinez, Deputy Assistant Director.
Pause, I have a question, Director.
Yes.
What if, now that we're increasing the master contract agreement, and so is there an opportunity for CDSF dollars to be applied to this contract? So let's say we had some in various districts that would not meet because we're fully subscribed, right? We already have folks in the queue that we're trying to cure. Is there a possibility if there was a application that wouldn't meet, that wouldn't be able to be in the pipeline at a priority for the supplement to be funded from a council budget?
From your council budget? I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I have to do a little research
fine.
in order to get you an answer on that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no answer needed today, but just a consideration.
Sure.
Thank you much.
All right.
Good morning. Item 4, Dion Street Villas Apartments. HCD is requesting approval of an ordinance authorizing an amendment to the loan agreement between the city and Texas Interfaith Housing Corporation for an additional $1,344,404 in CDBG DR-17 funds for the development located at 1433 Dion Street and 1800 West 15th Street, which is in District C. Next slide. The development is a 108-unit podium-style affordable housing rental development that will provide a mix of studio, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units for families that are low to moderate income at 30%, 50%, and 60% AMI. A total of 56 of those units will be affordable. Next slide. In March of 2023, the General Land Office authorized retention for the multifamily program to retain approximately $2.7 million in DR-17 funds for multifamily intended to cover gaps on projects that needed additional funding. HCD received a supplemental request for the Dion Street Villas project, which has since been approved by the GLO. These funds will subsidize the cost escalations of materials, labor, and other project-related expenses due to inflation. Next slide. The terms of the original agreement will remain, including the 40-year affordability period, which is to begin at construction completion. Interest on the loan upon project completion will accrue at 1% to be paid annually from the available cash flow. Next slide. These two next slides are progress photos. So construction is at approximately 99% complete. I'd like to note that the general contractor in this case is Brownstone. The architect here is Cross Architects. And then the last slide is the sources and uses of funds table. The total project budget is approximately $33 million. So the additional approximately $1.3 million investment brings the city's total contribution for this project to $12,344,404. And that concludes my presentation.
Staff from Councilmember Knox's office.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Just in general, these various projects that you outlined today, is it the administration's policy to have them meet with nearby neighborhoods or HOAs or civic clubs? Do you know if they've done that or not?
When we go through the NOFA process, so this particular Dion Street Villas project would have come through the DR17 multifamily NOFA process. And so part of that process, they go through community engagement, meet with council members. So I believe this particular project came through in round 2 of our DR17, which would have been, I believe, in 2021. So it has been a while. As you note, this is at 99% complete. So all of that community engagement happened earlier on in this
Okay.
process.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
And as an aside to that question, roughly, do you know how many projects we have in the queue for a supplemental request? I know that was a process, and we had other projects in the queue that were looking for additional funding because, as you mentioned, this is 2021 and it's 2023.
So I believe about 2 months ago, maybe, we had presented the St. Elizabeth. So St. Elizabeth and Dion Street are the only two, because
okay.
as I noted, it was only 2.68 million
Yep.
that was funded. So
Yep.
those two will use the remaining of the funds.
So that's helpful. Thank you much.
Thank you.
There are no additional questions in the queue related to this item. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving to director's comments, a couple of things before I do the next two presentations. Many of you may know that there were a couple of articles. There was an article in the paper last week, and then there's an article in today's paper in reference to movement in the housing department. The article last week was really supposed to have been around the staff reduction, and for many who commented in that article don't understand or don't quite grasp the how grant funding works. In this business, when funding has a start and typically an end date, and sometimes those funds are capable of or run a little longer than the end date because it takes time for some of the programs to completely be developed. But as those programs come to an end and as funding comes to an end, then it requires a staff reduction. So unfortunately, it is the most unpleasant part of my job is when we have to do this staff reduction. So just wanted to address that because it keeps popping up, but it pops up and not really addressing the real issue, and the real issue is funds in this business, and when funds are coming to a conclusion, then a reduction in staff is always going to happen. It's an unfortunate nature of this particular kind of product that we work with, but a necessary evil, so to speak. So now that I've got that out the way, let's move on to the next presentation. This is really an update. We came to you many months ago about some of these projects, but Bissonnet Apartments, we want to do let you know about that. This is ACD recommends council approval and a motion to establish a date for the public hearing on October 4th, 2023 for the resolution of no objection on a 4% tax credit application for Bissonnet Apartments, a limited partnership. ACD recommends the resolution of no objection for the following reasons: located in the A-Leaf Westwood Complete Community, not located in a floodway or 100-year floodplain. HCD recommends council approval of the resolution of no objection on the 4% tax credit for Bissonnet Apartments Limited Partnership for a 264-unit affordable apartment complex located at 12,000 Bissonnet Street. ACD has performed a threshold review and recommends the resolution of no objection for the following reasons that were given in the A-Leaf Westwood Complete Communities and is not in the floodway or floodplain. The Bissonnet TDHCA requires that an applicant receives a resolution from its governing municipality if the similar property was built in the last 3 years within 1 mile of the applicant property. Based on the developer's experience, the city need for affordable housing, ACD recommends the approval of the resolution allowing Bissonnet Apartments to be located within the 1 mile of a similar property constructed within the last 3 years. And in the room today, Blake Hopkins with that project is here if we need, if you have any questions related to this particular.
Thank you, Director. And I want to share publicly, because I've been in communication with Mr. Hopkins since they received notification from the TDCH related to the 4% and the timing of that. I am in support of the resolution, and I would hope my colleagues would join me once this comes to council. However, I want to be really clear about, because I believe that we have to revitalize our area, and housing is one of the ways that we do that. But I want to be really clear about my concern. My concern is because it's over 100 acres, that every developer is going to come back asking for a variance, which would then create concentrations of poverty. And that is not the intended goal of revitalization. And so I want to make sure that, and just for context, this is Bissonnet and Kirkwood. And Bissonnet and Kirkwood, we are having some issues related to a lot of stuff going on over there, and we are working to mitigate all of that. But housing is necessary over there, and then in the future, and I don't know if that's something that Mr. Hopkins can speak to, but in the future, I'm concerned that everyone's going to come back asking for a resolution for a variance of the 1 to 2 mile because it's 120 some odd acres that needs that scale to be developed. And we don't create economic pathways by concentrating poverty. And we worked really hard as a council to make sure that it's integrated throughout the city and that everyone has access to high opportunity areas. So that's my editorial for the morning. I am done. I conclude. And Mr. Hopkins, is that something that you can speak to, Director? Is that, Director, are you fine with that? Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. I'm Blake Hopkins. I'm the Vice President with Lincoln Avenue Communities. Again, we are proposing a 264-unit affordable development for families. As Councilwoman Thomas said, this is a 134-acre redevelopment site. We're only developing 11 acres of it. There is another site within the 134 acres that is Kirkwood Crossing in affordable development, but it's my understanding that the remainder of the acreage is reserved for other uses. I believe there's retail, commercial, flex space, single-family, residential. So I can't speak for the master plan developer because we're just developing our 11 acres, but I believe the idea is, this would be a larger redevelopment site that would have other uses as opposed to additional multifamily.
Yes, and a single family is single family rental. It's not single family to purchase. So like that's, it's single family rental. And so although that is an option, again, I'm not in favor of concentrating poverty. So it defeats the purpose. However, I want to publicly acknowledge that in working with Mr. Hopkins is an example of when developers work hand in hand with council offices. Every civic club, HOA, super neighborhood that we have instructed, you need to go and talk to him. He was there, reached out, and was very aggressive and proactive early in the gate, as soon as they received notification. So I think that should be a standard. So council offices are not, backs are not against the wall. waiting for approval, but we've been doing this probably since the early spring, maybe?
Yeah, early spring.
Early
Late
spring, and so
yeah.
that's how we've been able to come to this conclusion and for them to earn my support. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, our next item under 6B is Eastmaker Hub Food Factory. This is in District H. ACD recommends council approval of an ordinance authorizing a loan agreement between the City of Houston and Urban Partnerships Community Development Corporation to provide $1 million in community development block grant funds for the construction of a commercial kitchen and a aquaponic greenhouse at the East End Maker Hub site, which is at 6501 Navigation Boulevard. The renovation includes the build-out of a commercial training kitchen with commissary training and classroom facilities, and the construction and raised beds and a high tunnel greenhouse. Improvements to this structure will include the installation of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, venting system, and natural gas. The project will provide trainees and K through 12 students with agricultural and culinary job training and hydroponic micro-credential training. Certifications training in aquaculture will support job opportunities for low to moderate individuals. All services will be provided in partnership with TXRX Labs, a 501c3 nonprofit providing K through 12 STEM education programs and workforce development for adults. And if you go through the next slides, there are some renderings of that site, and you will see a couple of renderings, and then a rendering of the high tunnel greenhouse, and then what a markup, a proposed look at what that commercial kitchen will look like. And then on the next.
Director, didn't the CEO come before us a couple of months ago about this? Or
Yes.
about the hydroponic
Yes,
training?
yes. So we brought it back to you because it came to this committee several months ago.
Right.
So we just wanted to update you because it will be moving to City Council.
Council got it. Thank you much. I appreciate that.
All right.
I thought my mom was playing tricks on me. I was like, I know I didn't seen this before. All right, thank
You
you.
have a great memory. And all right. And then moving forward with our Harvey Grant update, if I can bring up Tamika Jones, Assistant Director and CFO.
Good morning, committee. I do have just a brief update for you. Here on slide 67 just shows a highlight as of just about a week ago of our Harvey benchmarks. I have taken the liberty of highlighting those that have exceeded the benchmarks in green so that you can see those programs that are successful. And then our Home Buyers Assistance Program, although the calculation is rounding up to 100, you can see there they're just above $68,000 away. We do have some additional draws that will be submitted, so we are confident that Home Buyers Program will exceed its benchmark at the end of December. And then otherwise, you can see the remaining balances for some of the other programs, our buyout program, multifamily, our planning, and then small rental. You can see those have balances that we'll be working towards with our program areas to get draws submitted before the end of the year. Any questions?
Yes, where will large tract fall within this in terms of reporting?
Very, very good question. That is going to be our Harvey Single Family line item. So as you can see here, we have approved just over $42.7 million. That is what is under discussion now. GLO has indicated repayment of that.
So if I can add some clarity to that, so that has been part of a larger discussion. That's part of these articles that are coming in and out of the paper over the last couple of weeks. So in our identifying what we identified was large tracts, we purchased 3 tracts of property, which was the Hardy Yards property, which is north of University of Houston downtown, the Cityscape property, which is 288 and Orem, And then we had the Stella Link property, which was just south of 610, that sat between South Main and Stella Link. Due to the fact, and for those of you who understand construction, that it takes quite a bit of time to develop raw land. So our portion of those, we purchased the property, and then to incentivize a developer, we were going to provide infrastructure funding for that. The infrastructure piece roughly can take anywhere from 8 months to perhaps a year, depending on how long it takes to replat and then put in streets, utilities, all of those things. So with our agreement with the GLO ending in August of 2024, obviously, there's not enough time to do the construction on those 3 tracts of property. So it would take quite a bit of time to get the infrastructure done before you can start doing the vertical. And then there was concern with all of the developers who participated in those projects about having enough time in order to complete those projects, because we were instructed that as of those dates, if we had not significantly completed that project, we would then have to repay the entire amount back. So with that understanding, we had conversations with the GLO, and the GLO suggested that the only remedy that was, we gave them several options, but the only remedy that they came back with was to repay them for those 3 tracts. So that's what we're doing. We're in the process of working with GSD to get appraisals, to get an understanding of where we are with those 3 tracts. And then we will obviously have to repay the GLO for those 3 properties. But the dollar amounts that was set on those 3 properties, the remaining amount of money that was identified for single-family activity moved to our regular single-family program. And that falls into a number of programs through new construction and as well as first down payment assistance for first-time homeowners. So we are still very robust in terms of delivering single-family homes. All of you know, and all of you have heard about the mayor's 3,000 home initiative. That program is still moving forward. We're still doing that. And even if all of those homes aren't completely built by December 31st, the program is structured that they will continue those programs, and those projects will continue moving forward because they already have a commitment and they already have allocated funding. So that program will continue to move forward. So I don't want anyone to misconstrue and think that we're not building and we're not moving forward with single-family affordable homes. We are still moving forward with those programs. They're just not under the GLO's program.
All right, and Director, can you add context in terms of number of doors? So you mentioned the 3,000, and then the large tract program, the 3 sites that were identified, we're going to produce how many number of doors?
So under the 3 tracks, it was estimated that it would roughly be maybe 700. It depends on where detention had to be placed, and then what was going to be the ultimate style and design of the homes based on who the developer was.
Which is important, so I think in context of the larger program, to the point that you underscored, that the 3,000 in comparison to the 700, we're not stifled in that activity. And then, and a second question in terms of, so let's say that transaction happens between the GLO and we sell the property back and they get it, right? So then are they going to initiate the large tract on their behalf in the city of Houston?
We're not quite sure what they're going to do with
Okay.
those dollars. That is going to be a decision that obviously the GLO will make that ultimate decision. But whatever they do with the dollars will have to be spent in the city, but we are not
Sure.
guaranteed that they're going to do it
Because
in
they could claw that
single-family.
back and move it to something else, another line item, right?
That's correct. And remember, they also have a single-family program
Sure.
as well. So in some of the clawback that they've done earlier, they put that into their own programming to make sure that they are fully subscribed on the homes that they're doing.
Sure, and if you can just provide some more information, so because single family is showing at 102%, and so with this new information, do we anticipate that the benchmarks will change, the percentage?
What will happen is this program will be eliminated. And so what will end up happening is the funds, once the properties sell, we repay the GLO for the acquisition costs and costs that have been reimbursed to date, then that program will just be eliminated.
Got it, thank you. The staff from Councilmember Cisneros' office, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a quick question about the reallocation of that funding to the single-family programs. Since the Hardy Yards project was in District H, was just wondering if there's going to be any prioritization of districts that were from those three tracks of single-family housing.
So there is not a reallocation of funding. So the funding that was spent on those properties was to purchase. So we're reimbursing the GLO. So obviously, we're going to sell those properties, and then whoever buys them will be to their discretion on how they decide to utilize that property. But there is no reallocation of, we're reimbursing the GLO for the dollars that we spent on those properties. So there's not an opportunity to put those dollars someplace else. We got to pay that back.
Okay.
GLO may, at its discretion, reallocate them to other projects that they deem beneficial. How they decide the prioritization of those projects and where they place them inside the city limits or to benefit the city residents, that's completely up to the GLO. We do not have any influence over that decision.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I do want to provide also, if we could move the slide forward just a couple, just some highlights on progress since our last meeting. You can see here in the fiscal year, we currently have 19 multifamily projects underway and 7 public facilities projects underway. And then also as of the beginning of September, what you'll see here is just an update of the Houston Community Land Trust along with the Land Bank. Continuing on is the home repair program along with new home development program. And then last but not least, our down payment assistance program along with our CHOTO program, just to give the committee an update of where
Can
we
you
stand.
clarify what on hold for the new home development program, the 41? Can you help me color in the
Which
line?
one that is?
Page 71.
The new home development program. Cedric, would you like to come up?
Madam Chair, those are the 41 lots that we have set aside with the Houston Land Bank that we're developing on.
I'd rather you hear it from the person who's going to be responsible. Any questions? And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, continuing with my portion, next slide. I want to give you some updates. As always, we still have our virtual community office hours. That's every Wednesday, 1 to 4. That information, that team is always ready for providing information with them. Next slide. On September the 1st, we did participated in the demolition ceremony for Edison Cultural Arts Center, which is 7100 West Fuquay in District K. And you'll see slides showing that demolition moving forward for the construction of the Art Center, which is right next to Edison Lofts. Next slide. Grand opening, we had August 25th on Sunrise Lofts, 3103 McKinney. This particular property is in conjunction with a number of other projects that between the city, state, and county are participating with individuals for young people who are aging out of foster care, give them a place to have a residence so they're not homeless. And you'll see the mayor was there for that ribbon cutting. Progress update on Rosemary's Place Apartments on 3300 Caroline. That's in District D. That project is moving forward. Also Lockwood, Buffalo Bayou, this is on Dearden in District I. Update on the Hay Center. Again, this is another project that is tailored toward young people who are aging out of foster care. So that project is moving forward. St. Elizabeth's Place, 4514 Lyons Avenue. That project is moving forward, taking the old St. Elizabeth's Hospital and converting that into residential living. As well as an update on Gala on McGregor, new construction. That project is nearly complete. They will be having their grand opening ribbon cutting. I believe that is scheduled for October 12th. So that project is coming forward. An update with New Hope Housing Savoy, 6315 Savoy. That project is nearing completion as well. They will also be having their ribbon cutting on October 12th. I believe that is scheduled for the afternoon of October 12th. And you can see that picture of update. Caroline Loss, 2403 Caroline. That project as well is nearing completion. So you can see we will be doing ribbon cuttings and grand openings for that project coming soon. Update Timonus Place, 1703 Gray. That project is right near our office, and as I've always stated, you can't miss it when you're riding down Pierce Elevated because of the color of the building. It is really colorful. You can't miss it, and you'll see it, but they're also getting very close to completion. Toward the end of October, early November, we will be doing ribbon cutting on that one. As well as an update on 2100 Memorial, which is in conjunction in a partnership with the Houston Housing Authority. That project is moving along. It's more than halfway completed. Now they're approaching the 65% completion part. So you now have a real idea of what that project is going to look like. An update with Summit at Renaissance Park, which is 12121 Greens Point. This project is also 67% completed in District B, and that project is moving along. Hopefully, we will be doing a ribbon cutting on that before the end of the year. We are also participating with the Houston Area Women's Center, building their new facility on 3077 El Camino near the, that's 288, sits between 288 and the NRG Center Stadium. So in that area, that project is moving along. And that brings my presentation to a conclusion.
My word, thank you so much. Thank you, Director, and to your entire team for very detailed and informative presentations. And to staff representing council office, if you need any particular details, please reach out to Ms. Roxanne Lawson for additional information. If you saw some items in your district that are important, please spend the time to do that. At this time, I do not have any signed up speakers. Do we just have Doug? It wouldn't be a committee without Doug Smith on the record, so y'all roll out the red carpet, please, and play that theme music for Doug Smith.
Give him his theme music.
Give him his theme music. Good morning, Doug. Good to see you.
Obviously, it was very disappointing to read the paper last week and see the city's going to be returning $60 million when there's such a huge need for affordable housing. And Keith explained some of what went on. Questions that come to my mind: what if nobody wants to purchase the land that was purchased under the grant? Where will the money come from to pay GLO back? I don't know whether that's been addressed, but the properties were very specific to the need for the affordable housing, so I'm concerned about that. The other concern, before I forget, in addition, Tiffany, I echo what you had to say relative to Blake's project. He flew down to attend one of the Ailey Super Neighborhood meetings, and we have supported that project. And I saw him in the lobby, and I said I'd try to remember to say something about that. So relative to the return of the money, One of the things that concerns me is there were 40 people that were working on that project, and it's a failed project, and it's very concerning that that many people, I'm not sure what 40 people had to do in that process, but it brings to mind, the thought that comes to my mind is that maybe an outside source or consultant needs to look in depth at the housing department to see what people are doing on all of these projects. Granted, a lot of that money is kind of hidden. When I say hidden, it's from grants. It doesn't come through the general fund or whatever. And it just is very concerning to me that 40 people were on that project. And finally, in the article in the Chronicle, it said HUD had not yet responded to the request. And I don't know whether there's still a possibility that the timing can be extended, but I just wanted to bring that up as well. So.
I appreciate your feedback, as always, and give us some time to respond back formally.
Okay.
So Isaac has taken notes, and we'll get with Ms. Lawson in the department. But I will tell you, we have a series of positions throughout the city of Houston on the HR website that are noted as grant funded. And candidates that apply for those particular positions are very well aware that there's a clock on their time. And then, you know, that line item did not receive an extension from the GLO. We did receive a 6-month extension. Large tract was not one of them. And so, yes, I think when you read the headlines, it's disheartening. However, everyone going into those positions knew they were on a grant fund. And so I hope that some of the talent that was in the 40-person team would be retained in the housing department on some level, in some scope, at some period of time. But anything else, we can get you in a follow-up, a more formal response about your question about the funds and.
Yeah. And what were those 40 people doing?
Correct.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks. Okay.
And Madam Chair, if I may, all 40 individuals were not working in large tract. That covered more than just one area. So I don't want everyone to walk away thinking that 40 individuals left one particular program. That was spread over 3 different programs. So, and as you said, this is not the first time we've gone through this. And many times the number has not necessarily been this large. And we have other program or other funding coming about that allows us to absorb some of those individuals. We just do not have any programming at this time that would allow us to absorb 40 individuals. But there are some programs that are moving forward. So we had 20 individuals in large tract, and then 15, I think it was.
Around 15 of them, about 15 or so in large tract.
In large tract, and then we had, the balance was in our small rental. So, and yes, and the 20 in the buyout area. So we have suggested that those individuals be on the lookout for postings of jobs that are in the department, but also be on the lookout for other jobs that are being posted throughout the city. So, and we will assist them in every way we can to help them do that.
Thank you. It's 10:58. Y'all do me so good around here. That concludes our public comments. Vice Chair, take us away.
Madam Chair, it is officially time, and before we adjourn, I'd like to remind everyone that our next Housing and Community Affairs meeting will be held on October 17th, 2023. The District F office will be sending out additional information. Thank you again to everyone for being here today online and in Houston City Hall chambers. If there are no other comments or questions, Madam Chair, this meeting is adjourned.
In 59 minutes exactly. Hot dog. Thank y'all so much.
All right. You got this down.